session in the webinar series on professionalism in civil engineering, which is there on every Saturday between 4:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. And to talk about this webinar series, I request Srikanth Chanal, new chairman of the Bangalore Center, to take over and start. Over to you, Srikanth.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good evening, friend. It gives me great pleasure in welcoming all the participants to this third session of webinar series for professionalism in civil engineering, organized by Association of Consulting Civil Engineers in Bangalore Center. In the first session, we heard engineer Sangeeta Vij deliberating how shortcomings in building bylaws may lead to building collapses and pose safety and service problems of the buildings at large. I think some disturbance is there, Diksha. Can you mute that?
Yeah, some of them are not muted. Diksha, I think you should mute all of them.
Please go ahead, sir, and unmute your mic. Sir, unmute your mic.
I think I missed out.
Yeah, you're okay now.
Yes, sir. In the second session, we heard Super Prakash speaking of the facts of unprofessionalism practice prevailing in government and private organizations and how it affects the quality of construction and also the financial burden of the society. You may not be eager to listen to the legal aspects of our civil engineering profession in particular and the construction industry in a broader sense. For the information of all members present here, civil engineering profession is yet to be legalized as recognized by the Act of Parliament. However, there are certain legal privileges available for us to practice civil engineering, which today's speaker is all going to talk about. In this regard, we have our ex-president of ACCE, Engineer Avinash Shirode, who is probably the person or the only person having in-depth knowledge about the legal aspects and disputes that were challenged in various courts about our civil engineers' competence and how the engineers have overcome and all these things. I think we are going to listen in detail from him. Hope all of you will be thrilled to listen to this subject and hopefully prepare for further such battles if it becomes necessary. So that's all what I can say from my side, sir. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Kalgal, sir.
Yeah, thank you. And I now request Dr. G. Narayana to briefly introduce Engineer Avinash Shirode, past president.
Good evening, you also. Mr. Avinash Shirode is a consulting engineer and past president of Association of Consulting Civil Engineers India. Born in 1948, a multifaceted and versatile personality. He is a civil engineer by graduation from College of Engineering, Pune in the year 1970. Structural engineering by post-graduation from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, 1972. Is aerospace engineer by employment in the Vikram Sarabhai Space Center, ISRO, Trivandrum, SLV-3 project. Is an architectural engineer by profession for sugar, textile, and industrial projects. Some are World Bank projects. Is a software engineer by developing various computer software packages for RCC and structural designs, estimates, construction management, etc. He designated as Space Ambassador by National Space Society USA, elected as Director on the National Space Society USA Board of Directors, the first from India to be on NSS board. It's a winner of several prestigious national and international awards, 44 numbers, and felicitations, published several technical papers and reports in national and international journals. A member of several technical, educational, and social institutions as office bearer. He's a poet, writer, thinker, traveler, visionary, orator, spiritual mediator, donor, so on. And he is a member of various professional bodies, 18 plus, more than 18 plus professional bodies members. And his activities, he was a president of National Space Society, USA, Nasik India chapter, and NSS Space Ambassador, Board of Directors, National Space Society USA, and he past president of Association of Consulting Civil Engineers, India, ex-council member of Indian Association of Structural Engineers, ex-council member of Council of Architecture as nominee of Institution of Engineers, India, ex-chairman Architectural Design Division Board, Institution of Engineers, ex-chairman of Computer Society of India, and is an task force directorate of technical education, Nasik region, and many more. On behalf of Association of Consulting Civil Engineering, I am extremely delighted to welcome Mr. Avinash Shirode, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Narayana.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And, I know it's very difficult to make his biodata concise because he is in so many fields. He's a truly seamless engineer, and because of his exposure to various branches, he also knows the viewpoints of various people, including those of artists. So may I now request Avinash Shirode to take us through the legal issues and disputes that we have been witness to in the period probably from 1970s to till now. Over to you, Shirode sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Uh, Okay, shall I start my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Sir, please.
Yes, sir, you can start, sir. We are very
Okay.
here.
Where it has gone. Share the content.
Yeah, visible, sir.
Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kalgal Saab, Srikant, and all the friends from ACCE and other professional bodies. I'm really delighted and thankful to ACCE for this wonderful series on professionalism in civil engineering. The last two lectures have been very, very inspiring and very informative. Sangeeta ji and our great Surya Prakash ji. I don't know how I would be doing it, but I would request all of you to bear with me as I have a little health problem and I may stop for a second or something, or I may have some problems, so bear with me. So friends, let me start. Legal disputes on civil engineers' competence in India. The basic thing is about the implications of the Supreme Court judgment on Architects Act 1972. My presentation would cover the following things: the architecture engineering coherence scenario after Supreme Court judgment, history of requirements of amendments, COA proposal for amendments to Architects Act, then history of Architects Act 1972 and the action plan for the engineers. Architecture and engineering, what is this? Annotation request. Okay, architecture and engineering, there must be a logical connect. It cannot be separated. Architecture per se can be done by many people, many professionals, I would say. That is the artists, architects, engineers, even a layman. Engineering, on the other hand, can be done reliably and safely only by a qualified and experienced engineer of the concerned discipline with relevant specialization wherever it is necessary. Architecture is the science of aesthetics, artistic beauty, and imagination. It can be improved by way of training, but not imparted. Imagination, aesthetics, artistic beauty cannot be restricted to any particular class of people, even after training or education. Imagination is nobody's monopoly. Even the uneducated layman, when he wants to construct a house, has always a basic concept, sketch, layout in his mind, how his house should be. On the other hand, engineering is a science of mathematical calculations. It has to be learned. No uneducated or layman can design foundations or building elements. Engineers can imagine and plan the structure in a better way as they are backed by calculation ability and knowledge of fundamentals of engineering. Their planning is more economical, more rational, and more safe as they conceive functional aspect of all related requirements. Friends, many most beautiful monumental buildings world over are designed by non-architects. There are various court judgments on the competence of engineers vis-a-vis architects. So this is a big list of that. I'm not going to get into all this, but we had umpteen number of High Court, Supreme Court, and other judgments which highlight what the Architect Act is, what are its provisions, and how engineers are not debarred from practicing the profession of architecture. We have all these things. Then we have one very important thing. UP government, Uttar Pradesh government, what it comes to, dated 5th January 2008, signed by Mr. Shankar Agarwal, the UP Chief Secretary. What the circular has stated, in whole of the UP state, the civil engineers who are corporate members of the Institution of Engineers India are authorized to practice as per the competence stated in National Building Code. The last one was 2005 and the latest one is 2016. Then another thing is, similar to architects, the engineers will not be required to take any license or registration from any authority related to construction or development. because as per the Architects Act, the architects do not require any registration or license to practice in the whole of India. So these were very important circulars for whole of the UP state. There is one very, I can't say funny, but one judgment of a Karnataka High Court. The tender was called for the services like survey, civil investigation, soil investigation, design, structural design and drawing, estimation and supervision. All these services were required by the client, but they did not allow it, and the judge, he ruled that all these services which I have mentioned earlier, they are pre-construction stage of work, pre-construction stage of work, and will be done only by architects, and hence the writ petition was rejected. It was really funny. What is pre-construction? What is post-construction? Actually, any building work starts right from conception, then planning, then designing, and then actually the work starts on the ground. But probably the judge thought that whatever comes on the ground is done by our engineer, and whatever is done in the office or not on the ground is done by engineer. That was really a funny thing as far as the court is concerned. And friends, my experience of having attended so many petitions and all that, how you frame the questions to the judge or in the petition, how you judge, frame the question is the most important thing. And as it is said that if you say that the glass is half empty, the judge is going to take cognizance of that thing. But if you say that the glass is full, half full, then the judgment is on the full glass and not on the half empty glass. So this is very important while making any court petitions, how you frame the questions to the court. Now, coming to this scenario after the Honorable Supreme Court judgment of 17th March 2020, that is just 2 years ago. In the past, there had been many judgments of various high courts and other courts in various parts of the country, and all of them have given interpretation and explanation of the Architects Act. Now, the Supreme Court has considered all these past judgments and given a landmark judgment clearly giving the true and correct interpretation and explanation of the Architects Act. The Supreme Court of India has hit the final nail in the coffin of the Architects Act. On 17th March, what was the case? On 17th March 2020, Honorable Justice Dhananjay Chandrachud and Honorable Justice Ajay Rastogi had given a historic judgment on the cases with the civil appeal so and so, where the Council of Architecture was the appellant and Mukesh Goyal and others were the respondents, and they had combined so many previous judgments and given a final judgment. The question before the court was whether the section 37 of the Architects Act 1972 merely prohibits the use of the title architect by individuals not registered with the Council of Architecture under the chapter 3 of the enactment of, or whether it alternatively section 37 actually prohibits the unregistered individuals from carrying out the practice of architecture and its cognate activities. In other words, does the section 37 of the Act permit individuals who are not registered with the Council of Architecture, whether they can continue practicing the profession of architecture in India? This was the question. It was really a long debate in various high courts of India. Many a times it was reiterated that the Architects Act 1972 only protects the title architect and not the profession of architecture. This is the most important thing, that only the title is protected and not the profession of architecture. It was also always portrayed by Council of Architecture that no one can practice the profession of architecture other than those who are registered with the Council of Architecture. It was always the false notion by Council of Architecture and the lobby of architects. This controversy imparted all persons engaged in the practice of architecture in India. Friends, the Attorney General of India brought out that it is the argument by this one, that these varied professions from essential cause in the overall machinery of construction in India and the design, supervision and construction of new structures cannot be done only by architects alone. This is Attorney General's submission. It would be unreasonable from a regulatory perspective to ask all professions touching upon the construction of new structures and obtain degree in architecture. Honorable Supreme Court has said that we affirm, Supreme Court has said, we affirm the decision of the High Court of Allahabad and hold that Section 37 of the Architects Act does not prohibit individuals not registered under the Act from undertaking practice of architecture and its cognate activities. The Architects Act does not prohibit. This is the most important part of the judgment. After this judgment, a situation of panic, first the depression and then frustration is created among the lobby of architects and the Council of Architecture, as if their profession, so-called profession and livelihood is in danger. It appears that they project the judgment that now in India, any Tom, Dick and Harry will practice the profession of architecture, and there will be the most ugliest, non-aesthetic, very, very bad planning of buildings, and India will become a very shabby place to live in. Hence, they have come very aggressive for bringing the amendments to the existing Act of 1972. So their submission or contention is that whatever is in the Architects Act at present has to be amended. There was one publication in 2020. After the Supreme Court judgment on Architects Act and the practice of architecture, a large number of architects are talking about amendments in the Architects Act. Various chapters of Indian Institute of Architects have been proposing various amendments in the Architects Act. As a matter of fact, there is no urgent need to go for any amendments to the Act because Architects Act has sufficient provisions for prosecution of the Farji architects. This is the most always talked about terminology or this one, calling all others as Farji architects. They also call engineers as Farji architects and quacks. The Architects Act has sufficient provisions for monitoring architecture education. Architects Act has sufficient provisions for safeguarding the interest of architects. Then, after this Supreme Court judgment, as I said, there was a panic situation and everybody has started interpreting it on their way, on their own way and all that. Somebody, I know the name, but I won't take the name. Somebody, an over-enthusiastic architect, had written to the Honorable Justice of Supreme Court that person, he was shocked. He was shocked to read the contents of the judgment, utterly making injustice to the architects and their profession of architecture and the general public at large. The judgment has hit a great blow to bury all the rights and privileges of architecture profession and asking for reopening and reviewing the case. He had written to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, making all allegations like this. He has also gone to say that the gross negligence on the part of Supreme Court is visible in the judgment. Gross negligence, a blatant violation of law by misleading and misreading and misleading the provisions of the law. It is a peculiar state of affairs and a question of justice is in conflict with the law and its original objects. This was a submission by one of the architects to the Supreme Court judge. Professional, he goes on adding, professional competence and capabilities cannot be decided based on the law. He challenges the law itself or making of law itself, but on the amount of learning and training. Law is secondary for him. This judgment has thrown this factor into the air. Hence, it was pleaded to reopen the case and to take suo motu cognizance of the unprofessional and unprecedented verdict by the Supreme Court. He was really a very brave person, challenging and making allegations to the Supreme Court. Then there were so many cartoons, so many funny things said about the judgment. They said, soon, in the government hospitals, compounders with 15 years of service may be promoted as doctors in India. They have said like this. Jolly well, study the civil engineering if you want to practice architecture in India, because it is now fully legalized. there was one cartoon like this. Hey, do you know this guy's specialty? He designs buildings. No architecture knowledge. He has absolutely no architecture knowledge, but he designs the buildings. Civil engineers, masons, kotharas, all these. And what the architects are doing. But I use only the article title after having studied the architecture. So they make fun of all these things. The architects have a false notion that every building designed and planned by architects will be good and beautiful. This is a very false notion by the architects. And every building planned and designed by engineers will be very bad and ugly and all sorts of things. So this is a notion by the architects. Architects in India started discussing the amendments when there was a big convention and All India Architects Congress at Pune in 2010. Since then, they conducted various programs, seminars, meetings, and now almost weekly webinars, and prepared several drafts of amendments to Architects Act. Meanwhile, the MHRD had introduced the Architects Amendment Bill in 2010 in Rajya Sabha on 31st August 2010. The bill was introduced by the government on its own after observing erratic working of Council of Architecture beyond its mandate in the Architects Act. It was a big blow to the Council of Architecture by the MHRD. The bill was only to supersede Council of Architecture when the COA was unable to act, persistently defaults in the performance of its duty, exceeds or abuses its powers, and does not comply with the directions issued by the central government. These were all the facts by the MHRD. The bill had nothing to do with the profession of architecture and whether the Architects Act have been what the architects have been demanding. It has nothing to do with amendments. It was about the working of Council of Architecture. There was just a brief debate in Rajya Sabha on 14th of December 2011, but nothing happened afterwards. Now, let us see the history of requirement of the amendments to Architects Act 72 as completed as envisaged by Council of Architecture. On consistent and aggressive representations by Council of Architecture on various forums and MHRD, the MHRD appointed a committee under the chairmanship of a very well-known, now he is no more, but architect J.R. Bhalla in 2014 to go to the demands of architects, but failed to convince MHRD to proceed for action on amendments bill. Mr. J.R. Bhalla was a person who was fully involved in the original bill of architects bill in 68, 69 and 70. He was a main person. And the same J.R. Balla was the chairperson of this committee. But nothing proceeded further on the demand of Council of Architecture for amendments. COA has drafted another proposal for Architects Act 1972 amendments in 2018 and circulated to all the architects for their comments. COA requested, what is this? Something comes out. Okay, the COA requested the architects to submit the comments and then compile the comments into the final draft proposal for further action. The reasons and arguments given by architects for the amendments. This is very important. When they have failed at all the forums, all the platforms, but what they say, why we need revision or we need amendment to the present act of this Architects Act. They say that it is more than 50 years now since the Architects Act came into force, because the Architects Act was passed in 1972. The engineers were allowed to practice. This is a very, very false notion and argument by architects that the engineers were allowed to practice architecture only because in the year 1972, there were very few architecture colleges and institutions and very few architects to render the service to large population of India. So they say that engineers were allowed because these architects were very small in number. Actually, they falsely argue that, and they say that it was a time gap arrangement to allow engineers to practice architecture. Actually, this is totally false, and nowhere in the Architects Bill or Architects Act it was mentioned in any of its deliberations that it was a time gap arrangement. No, not at all. Now, in these years, there is a tremendous technology development in the field of architecture. That's what architects argue. There is enough number of colleges and enough number of architects now available to serve the population. That means, as very falsely they claim or they argue that it was a time gap arrangement because number was very small. And now, after so many years, from 72 to till date, now there is a tremendous technological development in the field of architecture. What is this? Okay. But if there was, or if there is a tremendous development in technology development, compared to that, there is much more development, technological development in the field of civil engineering. Actually, this way, this architecture has a very small scope, but engineering has such a vast scope for technology development. What happened? Something has gone wrong. I can't. Hello?
Sir, you press the escape button, probably it will work.
Escape. Okay. No, there was something coming out. I'm pressing escape button, but nothing is coming out. It is not going left or right, and mouse is also not working.
Yeah, that mouse has become an annotator, so it is now trying to become a pen. So that is what has
It has
happened.
become a pain. I don't know what it is. How do
So
I get
probably
out
you
of
go
it?
to slide share mode and then come back to slide mode again.
No, but I'm pressing the button, nothing is coming out. So what is this? Share. Shall I stop the share?
Yeah, probably again restart the share. But you
Share the
must go to the
content.
same slide again.
Share my meeting window. I don't know what it is. Okay. And now I will share again. Yeah. I said share
Yeah,
the
come to that Microsoft PowerPoint and then press.
Microsoft.
सेकंड रो राइट सेकंड रो में थर्ड वाला है ना सर आपका?
Oh God, what happens? No, Microsoft text input feeds.
हाँ उसमें नेक्स्ट लाइन या
Next
वहाँ
line, that is start. Start.
सेकंड लाइन से हाँ स्टार्ट ये बाद में थर्ड वन 1 2 3
Microsoft PowerPoint.
हाँ वहाँ पे आइए
Okay. I hope it works. Anyway, okay. The
Yes.
proposal by COA for amendments to Architects Act, which is very crucial for us now. What is the gist of amendments proposed by Council of Architecture? Architectural services. This is the most important part. The architectural services includes providing any building design for site development and related infrastructure as a part of built environment, preparing and signing of all the drawings and documents required for statutory sanction and for construction, scrutinizing the related documents, the regulating the construction and development of buildings and related matters. They have taken the whole of this sphere of civil engineering into their ambit under the word architectural services. So nothing is left for engineers or anybody apart from the architects. Then they have said about the professional examination, and that exam is they will issue a certificate of practice, and the requirement or eligibility for a certificate of practice is the registration with the Council of Architecture. Then every authority in India shall seek prior approval of the Council for introduction of any architecture course or related things. Only an architect shall be entitled to any post. Now they have come to the employment part. Only an architect shall be entitled to any post involving the provision of architectural services in the central government, state government, union territories, etc., and all other authorities established by the law. That is, wherever the word architectural service comes, wherever the word architect comes, then it has to be only with the architect for employment or practice. No person, this is important, no person other than the registered architect or firm of architects or LLP of architects shall use the title and style of architect. No one will render architectural services and practice the profession of architecture. No one except the architect, including signing of building plans and other related documents required for statutory approvals for the construction of and any building related infrastructure. Then this is important. Notwithstanding anything contained in any law of the land, bylaw, regulation of any development authority, any municipal authority, any local body, etc., only an architect registered with this act shall be entitled to provide architectural services throughout the country and shall not be subjected to any further registration with any local body, development authority, and or any institution or self-government. Actually, as per the present Architects Act, the architect registered with the Council of Architecture does not require any license or permit or registration with any local body throughout India. Notwithstanding anything contained in the law for the time being in force, no person, municipality or planning development authority or local body, any other statutory body created under any law shall have, this is very important, shall have no power to license or to designate a person as architect or enable him to undertake any architectural services. So at present, as we have from National Building Code and other bylaws and all that, so whatever licenses are given to civil engineers, structural engineers, supervisors, and all other people, so no one will have any license to undertake any architectural services. Friends, what is the definition of architectural services given and asked for by the Council of Architecture in their amendments? Submission and reporting of survey reports. Survey reports also will do architects. Geotechnical investigation and reports will be done only by architects. Sanction plans and services only by architects. Quantity survey, imagine, quantity survey and estimation only by architects. And if it comes to into force, then all the government bodies like B&C, irrigation, and all other, they will be defunct. They will have no work because the estimation and survey will be done by architects, and these people have no power under the Architects Act, which is going to come or what they feel it should come. Submission of structural calculations and drawings, that will also be done by architect. Design and submission of PHE drawings only by architect. Tendering and selection of contractors by architects. Selection of supervisor and PMC only after architect's approval. Engineer will have no role into it. Approval of construction methodology. The architect will decide how the construction should be done, how it should proceed, and all that. Then billing and certification of contractors' bills. It will be checked and approved only by the architect. Issue, this is the most funny thing, issue safety certificate by architect. issue completion certificate by the architects. Actually, our friend Mr. Srikant Chanal has shared some documents about this safety certificate and completion certificates, how it is being done by the architects. Let us go to what was the history of Architects Bill. Up till now, we have seen what they are demanding and what is the position and all that. But let us also go back to 1968, 69, 1970, 72, when the Architects Act was passed. What was the history of Architects Bill? Architects Bill was drafted in 1947, circulated to states. Their opinion was solicited, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. In 1960, discussions again began about Architects Bill. Then on 10th of December 1968, a bill was introduced in Rajya Sabha. The bill was referred to Joint Select Committee on 15th of May 69 in Rajya Sabha, and just the next day in what it comes, I don't know. Shall I decline or what? Annotation request.
Sir, decline it.
No, it comes on quite often.
Yeah, sir. Somebody requesting, I think you have to decline it, sir.
Decline, no? Okay. The Joint Select Committee held total 9 sittings in all, and after having considered all memorandum, all representations, and all references, etc., and oh God, and having heard a number of witnesses, they submitted its report on 28th of November 2069. Oh God. Hey, it has, okay. After the report of Joint Select Committee, the bill was introduced in Rajya Sabha on 7th of May in 1970. The original bill, please note, this is very important to understand and to know. The original bill of 1968 had visualized the definition of an architect as a person qualified to design and supervise the erection of any building. This definition implied that no other person other than the one who was styled as architect and registered under the Architects Act could engage himself in any activity concerned with the design, construction, and supervision of any building. Please note, the original bill of 1968 had already visualized this thing, definition of an architect. This attracted the large protest from the large number of professionals, particularly the engineers, who felt that the designing, supervision, and construction of building was not the exclusive responsibility of architects only. It is not. So this was the petition by engineers to the committee. As the House is aware, the engineering profession is very vast and important profession. A large number of our engineers are engaged in various aspects of designing and construction of buildings. Any attempt to deprive them of their legitimate professional responsibilities will be unfair to the engineers. On this issue, the Joint Select Committee deliberated at length in various meetings and also heard the evidence of and the representatives of the Institution of Engineers, representatives of Institute of Architects, and other professional bodies. Everyone was given a fair chance to put forth their arguments. After taking all factors into consideration, the committee agreed that the definition of the term architect should be amended. The liberalized provision will go a long way in meeting the representation of a large number of persons, that is engineers, who fear that they will be deprived of their means of livelihood and in which they have been engaged for a long time, for long decades and centuries. Under the present circumstances, there is no need to provide separately, as in the original bill of 1968, for no plan or certificate in respect of any building required by any under law from an architect shall be valid unless the person is signing is registered as an architect under this act. The provision was considered redundant. The provision was considered redundant, and therefore the committee has rightly suggested that this definition needs to be deleted from the bill which was prepared and presented in 1968. The original bill of 1968 contemplated both the protection of profession of architecture and the title of architect. Both the things. The bill, as now amended by the committee, however, provides for the protection of the use of the title and style of architect only. They had removed the protection of profession. Therefore, the provision in the original bill precluding any person other than registered architect from practicing the profession of architecture needs to be amended and brought in line with the protection of the title only. Only the title is protected and not the profession of architecture. Several drafts of the bill were prepared and the state governments, the AICT and other authorities were consulted. The desire of the government was to bring forward a bill which would satisfy the legitimate demands of the architects on one hand, and on the other hand, give adequate safeguards to engineers. Adequate safeguards to engineers and others in the pursuit of their own vocations in life. Friends, this is the extract. The following part of the chairman of Joint Select Committee, Mr. Samuel's speech is extracted as under. This was a fundamental change in the Joint Select Committee thought it wise to make. I'm happy to say that the president of the Institution of Engineers and the president of the Indian Institute of Architects both came forward with the same suggestion. What is the suggestion? Oh God. Leave out the definition. What is the suggestion to the committee by architect and engineer representatives? Leave out the definition. Let us be just registered architects. As a matter of fact, the president of the Institute of Architects, Mr. Bhalla, who appeared before the committee, was very cooperative. This should be understood by the architects. Mr. Bhalla wrote a letter to the committee suggesting that the definition need not be there at all. The definition of architect and architectural services need not be there at all. Only anybody can design and erect a building without calling himself an architect. It is a big change. This has made the viewpoints of both the engineers as well as the architects. Therefore, we confirm the view that we are only protecting the title of architects and not protecting the profession of architects. The above fact is further borne out by the recent Supreme Court of India judgment in this 2020, wherein the Honorable Supreme Court has observed that Section 37 of the Architects Act does not prohibit individuals not registered under the Act from undertaking the practice of architecture and its cognate provisions, activities. It is clearly mentioned in the preamble of the Architects Act 1972 as below. The basis of bringing this act into the force was to protect the general public, from unqualified persons working as architects. And this was not to protect the interest of architects. Let the public have choice of taking services either from architects or either from engineers, whoever the public or the client feel more competent. Then there were some notices given by Council of Architecture about the quacks and furgy architects. This is very, very irritating, insulting that the Council of Architecture calls engineers as quacks and furgy architects. They are only shown.
Shirodab Sab, Abhi, you can take another 5 minutes.
Okay. I will just run through. Okay. Furgy architects. Okay. Engineers can do everything without architects, as they do the planning, much better planning than architects. But architects cannot do anything without engineers because they are not backed by mathematical calculations. The movement started by architects. Then we have to be on vigil. We have all these associations who had taken part in awareness program and filing cases where engineers were not allowed to participate. CEAI, ISFT, CE, ACCE, APGC, ACI, IEI, EAG, and various other local organizations and groups. They started writing. Many people like Mr. Mal, Mr. Vakil, Mr. Surya Prakash, engineers from Punjab, and several others like Manoj Mittal and other people, they were in the forefront of this campaign. Battle has started and we cannot stop till we succeed the fight. What should be the action plan by engineers? Friends, this is very important for you to note. Study in detail, clause by clause, all the proposed amendments. Also study in detail, clause by clause, all the provisions of the existing Act of 1972. Professional engineering organization to prepare suggestions with all supporting documents to raise objections for specific amendments. Spread the awareness of the forthcoming events, mood, thinking, and attitude of architects towards the civil engineers. Bring to the notice of all the state governments, statutory bodies involved in building activities of recent Supreme Court judgment. Always bring to the notice of these organizations all the tender notices where applications are invited only from the registered architects and engineers are excluded. And the most important but difficult task is be united. The very bold statement I am going to make as an action plan by engineers. See, when Narendra Modi came into power in 14, he had, their government had scrapped many irrelevant, outdated acts. So on the same ground, because we don't need a act just for registration of architects. So scrap the Architects Act 1972. Abolish the Council of Architecture. Bring architecture as one of the disciplines of civil engineering. There is no need for any separate engineering colleges and education as it is already imparted to the engineers and architects both. All our engineering associations must unite and come under one umbrella to make an impact to achieve the common objective. If you don't act now, then architects want us to do by of your choice the locks to all your offices. Also have a begging bowl. Friends, let us unite and never ever give up. Let us be united and see this picture of this one. Thank you. This is the most awaited slide in any presentation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to put forth my views. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirode Saab. Especially the last two slides would bring in a lot of questions and lot of enthusiasm amongst the listeners, I'm sure. Before we move to the question answer session, in every webinar we have some snippets from Ultratech Cements. So may I request Diksha to unmute Amarendra.survey. Amarendra.survey, you please make him co-host so that he can make his presentation.
But how do I remove this?
You just stop presenting. Shirode Saab, you can.
Okay, please do it on your own.
नहीं आप कर सकते हैं, आप ही कर सकते हैं.
हाँ, कैसा?
Where you have the stop presentation.
Yeah, stop sharing.
Stop sharing.
Okay, stop sharing.
Okay.
It's okay. Okay. Because I am very much using Zoom, so I don't know about the other ones.
Yeah, same problem with many of us.
Okay, thank you.
Something. Okay.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. Thank you.
Excellent. Now, Amarendra survey, you have to complete within the next 9 minutes.
Thank you, sir. And thank you very much for giving everyone out. The presentation topic given to me is waterproofing issues and solutions. So, to begin with, let us understand the areas from where the actually ingresses or penetrates in the structure. Generally, a homeowner or major faces the problems, the leakages from the roofs, leakages from the cracks of the external walls, leakages problems in the bathrooms, rising dampness, basement water ingress, leakages through windows gaps. I would say rising dampness is the most critical area which every other house faces the problem, and it is basically the adjacent wall of the bathroom. So let us understand how we can tackle all these kind of issues. And let us also understand the reasons for water penetration in structures. So reasons like the water penetration or the dampness on the wall through the external cracks which are formed in the plaster. The water seeps into it and the dampness is seen in the internal walls. Then the corrosion and spalling of the concrete, designing, which is like over design or under design. So that plays an important role. Even the homeowner, if he wants to do some kind of interiors, and as per his choice, he does a lot of changes in the structure as well. Then the project held up. The project which has been maybe held up for 2-3 years, and again if it starts, and then the quality of concrete which should be coated or which should be taken care of, like with the plaster, is open and exposed. And then after 3 years, when we are trying to do some kind of work over it, the damage has already been done. Then the maintenance of the structure, and which leads to all this kind of the miracle structure that we see in many places. So though we have very latest advanced technologies and advanced construction chemicals available in country, though then also we go with the conventional system. I would say almost more than 70% of the contractors are still going with the brick bat cover, which is mainly used to achieve the slope to the water, so to get the drain out. But the myth is that it provides the waterproofing also. It is very laborious and time consuming. Major issue is that it does not have the ability to handle the crack, which is developed subsequently. And with being a very rigid system, it requires like due to the thermal expansion and contraction, it is bound to get cracks. Then the accumulation of water in the bricks. Bricks has the tendency to absorb the water and keep holding the water, which leads to the chronic leakage problems. And then after that, the debonding and bulging of the china chips. So this is what generally observed in our terraces also. So to do the waterproofing and to arrest all these areas like water tanks, slab waterproofing, swimming pools, chajjas, DPC, core packing, rising dampness, ceiling dampness, the waterproofing has to be done internally and externally. Like internally, it should be internally through the concrete or through the plaster, mortars, what we use. And externally is the membrane coatings, what we generally get in the market. So, and then the next important point is where the coating is been applied, whether it has been applied positive side or whether it has been applied negative side. So that also plays a very important role. Though there are many products available which can be applied negative side also, but it is always recommended that the product should be applied from the positive side. Ultratech has the product which can be used as an integral waterproofing compound, so which can be used in concrete and plasters and mortars. So the dosages is 200 ml per 50 kg bag of cement. It not only reduces the water cement ratio, but improves the workability. It is very easy to mix, reduces permeability. It produces a dense and homogeneous concrete or the mortar or plaster, which doesn't allow the water to seep in through it. Enhances the compressive strength. Like as a data, the compressive strength is increased by 10 to 12%. So that was about the internal part. Now, when we are doing some kind of coating in the external part, the surface preparation is the most important thing. So any coating is to be applied on the prepared surface. If there is a dust over it, then it will harm the bonding of the coating. So the surface preparation and the cleaning is the most important thing. After which, if the cracks have been observed, the cracks are to be opened in the V-groove fashion and to be filled with the proper crack filler material. Then mixing of the material, that no lumps are to be observed in the mixed material. Waterproofing coating is to be applied on the prepared SSD surface conditioned area in 2 coats perpendicular to each other. And the coating is to be left over for air curing for next 72 hours, after which we have to do a bonding test just to ensure whether the waterproofing which has been done is 100% properly done or not. Once we are 100% sure about the waterproofing coating done, then we can go with a protective screed over it. So Ultratech has the range of products for waterproofing. That is Cylindra SBR, and which is styrene butadiene latex copolymer to be mixed with cement and can be applied in the sunken portion. Then we have Cylinder 5+, which is acrylic polymer, which is again to be mixed with cement and same area like for the chhajjas or toilet bathrooms, it can be applied. Then Weatherpro WP plus 200, which is an integral waterproofing compound, which I discussed about. Then cementitious coating, we have Cylinder single component, which is to be added with water and can be applied in bathroom, kitchen, chhajjas, etc. Cylinder Flex and High Flex are two component cementitious coating. It is cementitious polymer modified elastomeric coating, which can be applied for sloping roof, balconies, RCC water tanks, terrace, homes, etc. So that is all about the waterproofing ranges from UltraTech. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you for that insight into the waterproofing issues. Now, Shirode Saab, with your permission, we start the question answer session. And those who would like to ask questions may please raise their hands, and then they will be permitted to appear.
Okay, let me try because I am exhausted.
No, you don't worry. We won't ask too many questions. We have been for 50 years with 1972 Act, so we have a lot of resilience in us. So anybody who wants to ask any particular specific question on the legal disputes till now and our stand forward? A lot of people have been very informative.
Sir, can I come in, please? Sir, can I come in?
Please, you are in already. Girish.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Avinash, sir, this is one of the best compiled facts in such a precise time. The question is now that you have told the precedents and the facts that has happened, what do you suggest each one of us as civil engineers should do going forward in order to ensure that COA does not go ahead with these decisive intentions? What is that we as civil engineers can do going forward? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a simple thing because since last about 6-7 years, so many people have come out, all the associations. There was also a consortium of associations headed by Mr. A.P. Mull, ACC, then ICI, ISTRUCT, 4 associations and joined by APGC. All these people had fought few cases in the courts of law. I was there at Jabalpur, and of course, every time, whenever anything was there, I had to rush to Delhi and all that. So that thing is already there. It is alive. Nothing has been dead. But what is most important is writing our Surya Prakash ji and other people. They had also a big campaign of uniting the engineers by way of Telegram, WhatsApp, emails and all that. And he had also written to all the MPs of Rajya Sabha and this. So what is most important for a common man, of common civil engineer, I would say, is please bring to the notice of these associations if there is any tender notice where engineers are not participating or not allowed to participate. Then also try to meet all your local authorities, local MPs or bureaucrats, whomever you know, and bring them to their notice that Architects Act is merely only to protect the title. That is important. Because I can give you one example that some 25 years ago, I was the chief guest for a program at Solapur, and the municipal commissioner was the chief guest. And when I made a presentation about the legal position of engineers, then at the end, he asked me and called his city engineer and other people. They said, when engineers are so powerful with their rights, why nobody comes to us and tells us that engineers' rights are so this. Because only the lobby of architects, they contact, they meet all the bureaucrats and other people. Engineers never go, never tell them that these are our rights, never. But then immediately, and I had many examples that in Mumbai, that is Maharashtra, there was a MIDC, Maharashtra Industrial Development Corporation. They wanted to change their bylaws. And in the bylaws, what they did was they instructed the work to an architect. And my dear friend architect, what he did, he only changed the word wherever engineer was there. So only that thing he changed. And when I made a presentation, then that man was banged like anything that you are giving us a very false information and all these things. And the bylaws of MIDC were changed, retaining all the competence of engineers. And I have been involved in guiding many people, many places. So I request, if anybody has any problem about this, please come to me. I will try to help as much as I can. So awareness is the most important. Awareness amongst the engineers, awareness made to the authorities. This is very important thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ramesh Kushwaha. Ramesh Kushwaha, you can unmute and are you there? Okay. Ravindranath.
Good evening, Avinash Shirodeji, Ravindranath here. A very excellent presentation.
Thank you.
It's nice listening to you every time you present on this. I have heard many a times. And document all this and then keep it in our headquarters for the future reference of all others. Definitely is going to be very helpful. I'm sure it would be there, but all the precedents of actions and what it happened earlier, all these things, if it can be put forth and then kept in our headquarters, it will be quite helpful for the next level of engineers to come and have a look at it.
Okay, thank you for your suggestion. But let me tell you that I had made many presentations in various forums about this subject. So many people have already got my presentation because I always keep on updating it with new inputs and all that. So all our associations, I can share with pleasure all my presentation, all my documents. I have such a big folio on this thing, but I am ready to share everything possible, whatever is required to protect the rightful rights of engineers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rajendran. Mr. Rajendran.
Yeah, Sivaraman. This is Rajendran Sivaraman. First of all, thank you, Surya sir, for bringing about a wonderful forensic report that describes the whole history of architectural bill, which is impeding with our profession. I have heard this him talking about this for a series of lectures which happened last year along with Mr. Surya Prakash. But every time I hear from him, I get to know the new dimension about it. This is a knowledge bank for the young engineers to come. Number two, my next appeal is the Council of Architects has a constitutional power and it is an age-old organization. So we as some 2 or 3 organizations with a few committed members are trying to fight it out. So we need a constitutional power to form an engineers bill or the Council of Engineers to come up. So I suggest our first action is to gain this kind of power to fight a larger organization, already powerful organization like CPA.
Yes, I think it was more like a comment than a question. So Of course, as I told you about the consortium and all other associations working for this cause, because we have filed many court cases also, fought many court cases to protect, particularly when there was a case about Ministry of Corporate Affairs. There, that nobody can have a memorandum with the word architecture or architect in their memorandum of article of memorandum or something like that. So that case was also fought by us, and many we have been there as petitioners, we have been there as the joining hands and all that. So definitely, whoever requires a help, we always come forward. But the most important thing is, well, for fighting a case, a lot of money is required, and all that money is required from different associations and also from rich people, because let me have a very, very bold, and it may even insult others. I'm sorry for that. I apologize for that. But normally, who faces the problem? Only the practicing civil engineers face the problem. The structural engineers, they may not face that much of a problem because they get all their work from architects. The builders, they are always a goody people, and every time the architect comes in picture first, and then an engineer and other people come. So who is going to support you, and how much is the strength of practicing civil engineer who really feel the pinch of the problem? Others, even if they are happy, whatever is going on, until they really feel the pinch of it. So that is the most important thing. That's why we say that we have to unite and we have to fight it out. That is the most important thing. Thank you.
Sir, I would like to add
Hello.
sir, one small I would like to make here, along with our today's speaker, to Rajendran's question, that the problem is not only to a civil engineer. We are being a structural engineer, we have to beg behind someone else for our works, which should not happen. So I don't like that. So the way they are hiring us, there should be a provision for the engineers also to take the job and hire the other professionals. This I am telling right from the beginning, that we should not always, feel that we should always go behind them. So this is what just I want to make a clarification. I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, but as just a moment, as the client normally, except a very big project, normally the architect comes into picture first, and then the engineer comes in. For big projects, both are together. So they always feel, the architects always feel, and project, that they are the captain of the ship, or they are the project leaders, or they are the one who are going to coordinate the whole project. And engineer comes after the architect has already grabbed many things. So as Srikanth has said, that what we have to do is, we are not to get a project from architect. We have to get a project directly from the client, so that you can protect your rights and you can even protect yourself. You are not a subordinate to the architect. That has to be taken care of. But how many people would do that is fingers crossed. Thank you.
Shirode Saab, I have one small observation. In the end, you said, scrap Architects Act and bring them under NBC. It's not easy to scrap an act in India. Unless it was specifically mentioned that this act is, temporary, like the recently 370 was scrapped. Now, this is a permanent act, so it's difficult to remove that, I suppose. If we all make sure that no amendment happens, I think it will be good enough, right? I mean, after that, of course, we will make all the government people aware as to what the provisions of NBC are, in which all powers are given to us. But the thing is, people haven't understood and we have not lobbied. I agree with that. So, should we be looking at scrapping Architects Act or just see that there is no amendment?
Yeah, of course, let us be offensive than defensive. Up till now, we have been only defensive. Whenever something comes, we only defend. That should not be the case. And as you said, that it is very difficult to scrap. So there had been so many irrelevant, outdated, obsolete acts were present in India. So they were scrapped and all that. So it is, we can say we have to stop. First, our thing is we have to stop the amendments and we have to force that there is no need for any amendment to the present act. But also remember that this act is only for protection of the title and only for registration of architects into the book where the list is there. That's all. So we have to be on a very offensive one and not only as a defensive one. Thank you.
Hello, Kalagal sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Shirode Sab, for your wonderful presentation and also the insight into the Architects Act and the engineers' responsibility towards that. And as you rightly said, one thing what Kalagal sir mentioned that okay, that is going to be a long process. But now, as per the Architects Act itself, the Architect Act came into picture only to protect the general public from unqualified person. But nobody should say claim that okay, engineers are unqualified. So that means we are we are unqualified. Let us not take into that. So it is only for the only people who are not qualified. That is only applied. So in that sense, I think it's already there. And then in 1968 itself, the Rajya Sabha and all the declaration what you have mentioned is very correct. And then it was deliberated that okay, the reasons and objective, para 3, they have said that okay, it is only for the not for the profession of architect. And even in the amendment what you showed us, I am also first I am a civil engineer and then become an architect. I am a registered architect. So I am also just following all the development and also why I became an architect. The problem I faced and also the struggle I made into this particular situation. Now I am see we are in a collaboration situation and there is no only fighting between so even in case of amendment, as you rightly mentioned here, situation where all the professional bodies and then all their this one the view. So now also it is going to be like that, and then we are having a chance to present our case. There is no question of this one. That means one-sided judgment at any point of view in law. Why the court is only interpretation. As you rightly said, how we are going to frame the question. So that is and how we are going to represent our case before the court is important than other thing. And another thing is what we are seeing within our own profession as an engineer. So like last presentation, we had a wonderful presentation by Surya Prakash ji. He was mentioning about the professionalism. So lastly mentioned how far we are capable face this as a to grab the work from the architects as an individual, as an entity, as an engineering professional consultancy or any other company or body. So here only we have to introspect and then we have to catch up and then be proactive regarding the upgrading ourselves to the required situation and then to face any consequences. This is what my point of view. Thank you very much.
I think I may not be able to answer because the voice was cracking and it was very difficult for me to understand. But if you still want something from me, please ask our organizers to frame your questions, send it to me. I will definitely answer each and everything. Thank you.
Sir, one of the Avinashji, one important point which I saw when this argument at 1968 was going on was regarding how public would be inconvenienced if this comes. So if we take that argument now, even if we say that if these amendments are made, to the Architects Act, they are much smaller in number. We are lakhs and lakhs of them, and the public would be deprived of what they would have got legitimately from a civil engineer just by putting all the things into architects' hands, who definitely cannot handle all this. So if the argument goes like this, that public would be at a disadvantage if we give all powers to architects, and hence this amendment should not come. Suppose we take that as one of the arguments, might cut eyes. That's what is my feeling.
Well, our weak point of engineers is our number. We are large in number, so we do not unite. And everybody has his own nest and cave, so where they live. So they don't think profession as a large profession as an important thing. Even if the general public is required, we have to make a move that the general public should know what architect is doing, what engineer is doing, because your work speaks. That is the most important thing, and it has to be brought to the bureaucrats, to politicians, to authorities, and all that. So unless we make all these moves together on a larger scale, that if we these amendments, they come in force, then who are going to be who will be at I don't know, sorry, I have all the problems, So what is most important is we have to come together and bring it to the notice of the importance of engineering vis-a-vis architects. That's all. We don't want to compete with architects. They are actually competing with us.
Yeah, Ranganath has something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kalagan. Thank you very much, Mr. Shirode. I think that was a wonderful presentation. In fact, your last slide, actually, that is the one which has made me talk. In fact, I want to share some of my thoughts. It made me think twice, because this is the first time I'm hearing you so aggressively coming out and saying we should scrap COA. That particular statement made me think, and I just want to express my thoughts on that. Yes, you have some substance in what you have mentioned. See, the purpose of this particular Architects Act 1972 is to the title architect only and to register the architects. Another important work that has been assigned to COA is to monitor the education of architecture in the country. In fact, what was under the tight hold of ASCTE was carved out of ASCTE and handed over to COA. And COA is monitoring the education of architecture across the country. Mr. Shirode mentioned about some of the mishandling of COA during 2010-2011, when the government itself wanted to make the amendments, which I also don't know what has happened after that. He also expressed that that was the last we heard of it, and we don't know what happened. I would like to mention here that the main misdeed that happened was in the education wing of COA activity, which was one of the most important things that was given. When, if you take off that education from them and hand it back to AICTE, I don't think they have anything else except protecting their name, which I don't think it has any meaning. Yes, thinking on these lines of what Mr. Shirode explained, I firmly believe, and I second his thought that about scrapping of COA, even though I also know that it's not an easy task. Yes, there's very good substance in what he said. And thank you, Mr. Shirode, for enlightening us with that particular statement, as well as the presentation what you gave. Thank you very much. You don't have to respond to this. Take it easy, Mr. Shirode. I know your help. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shirode Saab. We know that you have some, issues. Of course, your enthusiasm can overcome all difficulties in health, but still we don't want to trouble you so much. Of course, you can be there in all the further webinars also to, explain to us if we are going wrong somewhere. So, the permission of the organizer, can we end this session now? Srikanth?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I wish to thank wholeheartedly Engineer Avinash Shirode, who's been leading from the front, as they say, in all our endeavors or any engineer's endeavors, by giving us the right legal points and telling us what has been the history. And he's got, as he was himself saying, folders and folders of information on these things. And he is a walking encyclopedia as far as legal issues are concerned. And he has also known the mind of the people, because he was also a member of the Board of Architects or Council of Architecture. So he knows exactly how they think. And that he is so, aggressive, even after this many years of nothing happening. It is so disappointing that anybody would walk out saying that kuch nahi hone wala hai, but he is not leaving it. So thank you, Shirode Saab, for an excellent presentation, excellent compilation. A lot of people are asking for this information, which of course the ACC will make it available to the participants. I'm also extremely thankful to all the participants who have, who have participated in this, and request all of them to be available for future webinars also. I thank Chanal, who is the firebrand pillar, who is standing strong and organizing all this. I thank the organizers in general and Srikanth Chanal in particular for all the efforts, and also D. Ranganath. Thank you very much, and we'll meet next Saturday. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone. And I apologize if anybody's feelings are hurt by any of my comments, but I have to give you whatever information is available with me, and I have been doing it since so many years. So I can tell with authority. So thank you very much, and good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
See you. Meet you in the next week.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
खत्म होगा